But right now, on the Harbor One hotline, it is the incoming president of the NCAA and the outgoing governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker. Governor, good morning.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm good. That's first. Usually, most people refer to me as the outgoing governor of Massachusetts. You're the first one I can think of that actually referred to me as the incoming guy at someplace else. So I appreciate the positive optimism in that statement.
Well, honestly, I'm trying to get Wiggy a job and get myself some tickets for the Final Four. That's really my.
I do appreciate your selfishness and your transparency. That's very helpful.
I'm sure there's a president's box at the NCAA, Final Four.
I'm sure there is.
We could all fit.
I'm guessing.
Everybody needs to remember that I don't start this job until March, and I'm going to be focused on that when I get there. There's a lot to do. Whew.
Well,
why did you take that, Governor Baker? It seems like an impossible task to fix something as broken as the NCAA.
Well, I think, my wife was a gymnast in college. My brother played baseball in college. I played basketball. Two of our kids played sports. We've grown up around a lot of kids for whom, sports, high school sports, college sports, was the ticket, the thing that made it possible for so many other things in their life to take place. And that gets, that sometimes gets lost. I mean, there's 500,000 kids playing college sports, and that means there are millions and millions of adults who played college sports and for whom that was a big part of not just their college experience, but in many cases it helped pay for it. And made it possible. And I get the fact that there are, the Power Five conferences or the Power Five conferences, and they're really important and very significant. But there are a ton of really important and significant schools that have sports programs all over this country that make a big difference in the lives of a lot of young people. And they're also, I think all of us would agree that they're also one of the ways that schools and colleges stay together. It's, one of the things alumni appreciate is the chance to, go watch the basketball team or the hockey team or whatever it might be, the volleyball team. And I think that stuff matters. And I sometimes wonder if we understand, if we always understand and appreciate just the breadth and depth of college sports.
Well, yeah, I think Governor Baker, for me, that's the most important thing. There are a lot of things that need to be fixed. Just like you, I'm a former collegiate athlete. I have kids that are collegiate athletes now. But the most important thing is I wouldn't have even thought about going to college if it wasn't for sports. I couldn't afford it. It wasn't even something. So there's a message there that I think needs to be highlighted more, which I don't think the NCAA does a really good job of, as well as all the other stuff that needs to be fixed. So I'm glad that you're focused on that part of it because this is a lot of kids way out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, that's even true with high school. I mean, there are kids who went to high school with my kids who stayed in school and got C's because they needed to do that to actually play a sport. And that was the thing that got them through graduation. And the number of kids for whom, college becomes possible because they have the ability to get a scholarship. I mean, it's enormous. And I'm completely with you on that one. And that is one of the parts that probably doesn't get the attention it deserves.
So you will say thank you to the Commonwealth today. I wanted to ask you, as you look back on the last 8 years, the three things that you are proudest of.
I think one of them would just be the tone that we set generally, which I think made it possible for a lot of work to get done that might not have gotten done otherwise. At a point in time when there's a lot of yelling and screaming and a lot of noise, we tried to keep people focused on what I would describe as the task in front of us and the work. And I think that made a big difference. I think it's part of the reason why, COVID, as brutal and as difficult as it was, we've actually come out of it on the other side pretty well. Well enough that the Commonwealth Fund said Massachusetts was second only to Hawaii in terms of the way they thought we handled this relative to all the other states. I think the second thing would be, it was not a big issue in Eastern Mass, but the build out of broadband, which wasn't in 53 communities in Western Mass, was a really big deal for them. And if you think about it, for most of us, broadband is like electricity and running water. But for them, it was not there. And that part of the reason is because it's hard to do and it's complicated. But, we started working on that in 2015 and we got it done this past summer. And we had an enormous event out in Western Mass to celebrate it. And the stories people told, the lieutenant governor looked at me at one point and said, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at the stories people were telling about what a difference it made for them. And then the third thing, if I had to pick three, I would probably say the work on sort of building out a deep water offshore wind industry, not just for Massachusetts, but for the United States. I mean, the procurements we did there opened people's eyes up to the fact that this could work. And there's now a tremendous amount of activity, private sector activity, all the way up and down the coast on that one. And I think that's going to be, it's a long pole in the tent, but I think it's one that's going to pay big dividends over time, not just for us, but for everybody.
Well, we're less than a month away from it. You get some credit on sports gambling, too.
I think we filed our original bill on that one. I'm going to say 2018 maybe, or maybe January of 2019. It was a long time ago, and I was glad the legislature got it done. It's pretty much all around us at this point in New England, and I'm glad it's kind of part of the mosaic of available, entertainment and recreational activities.
When you look forward, and I read your quotes when the announcement came about your next adventure, and you talk about working with the student athlete before you even mention working with any of the people of power in the NCAA. How do you want to improve that relationship between the NCAA and their actual student athletes, and how do you think NIL and how that's all played out has affected kind of modernizing the NCAA?
So I'm gonna tell you guys that I'll be happy to come back and talk about this when I'm actually in the job. But until I'm in the job, I don't think it's appropriate for me to get too far ahead of myself here. But those are obviously some of the issues that we and the rest of the folks will be focusing on once I'm actually in the role.
Governor, 978 Texter wants us to thank you for the tax refund. I didn't get mine yet. Are those checks?
Oh, come on, Greg.
What?
He doesn't need it.
If you didn't get one, you are literally the only person in Massachusetts I haven't heard from. That was. I mean, people need to understand what happened there. The people in Massachusetts rebounded so successfully coming out of the pandemic that under state law, we collected way more revenue than the growth in personal income. And that's because, people just delivered in a big way. And being able to give them back, especially heading into the holidays at a point in time when the price of everything had gone up, a $3 billion tax rebate was a really great thing to be able to do. And I heard from a lot of people about this. And we said, it paid for, presents for their kids. It paid for their holiday party. It paid for a lot of different things. And but that one is 100%, because the people in Massachusetts just did a spectacular job of getting their feet back under them and succeeding coming out of the pandemic. That's what made that possible, period.
One thing that I just have needed to get before you are concluded your time as governor of Massachusetts, Tom Brady departed this state during your tenure. Should I blame Greg or you?
Curtis is always trying to say that's a jinx on me, Governor.
Yeah.
Tom Brady leaving.
I think I got asked about this one at one point, and I said, somebody said, are you disappointed he left? And I said, look, I'm old, okay? I was a Patriots fan before Tom Brady for a long time, and I always felt like the 20 years we got from him and from so many others, including guys like Ty Law, who's coming on your show in a while. What a gift if you're a fan of sports, and especially a fan of pro football. And I think I don't think anybody really should be taking the blame at all for anything associated with Tom. I think in some ways, it was awesome to have him and the folks who were around him for so long, because it was a completely different experience than the one many of us have had with a variety of our sports teams over the course of the 40 or 50 years that I've been paying attention.
Oh yeah,
That's
I mean,
the
you
part
got to
everybody forgets.
You got to be a part of a bunch of parades and stuff during your tenure, and so the pretty amazing time.
Yeah, the parades are nice, Craig, but you got to admit it's not the parades are not where the parades are great. Don't get me wrong, but the thing that's really great is just every year at the start of the season, you could honestly go into the year believing you might be in the Super Bowl. Every year. I mean, think about that.
Doesn't feel
Incredible.
quite like that. It doesn't feel quite
No.
like that right now.
That has changed.
Fall from grace.
yes. All right. Well, so today you say you'll give thanks to the Commonwealth, and then Courtney was talking about the ceremonial. You have the lone walk. What do they make you walk out of there and leave? Do you put everything in a box and leave, or how does that work?
Yeah. There's a tradition, and the lieutenant governor and I are both going to do it. But there are only a few times when we open up the front doors of the State House. Okay.
Yeah.
One is when the governor leaves. One is when the new governor arrives, and the other is when heads of state come to visit. There aren't that many times when the front doors get open, and this tomorrow will be one of them. And I kind of like it as a tradition. The current administration exits the building and makes it available for the next administration to enter the next day. And we spent the past few days taking down pictures and packing boxes and moving stuff out, and and it creates a certain sense of reality about the whole thing, and at the same time, there's a lot of memories and a lot of stuff that you come across that you'd kind of forgotten about, and that makes it's the episode of sort of packing up. I've been sending pictures to people that I've come across that date back to 2014, 2013, in which I look like I was 12, by the way. But I think it's sort of an opportunity to celebrate the departure of one administration and the arrival of a new one, and I like it. I think it's a cool tradition. I really do.
Did Mayor Wu ask you to use a bike lane, or?
I think when you get to the bottom of the stairs, if I'm remembering correctly, from Governor Patrick, Governor Well didn't do this because he left he and Paul Salucci had a different kind of thing when he left, because he left midterm. But I'm pretty sure when Governor Patrick got down to the bottom, a bunch of the folks that worked in his administration and stuff were there and shook hands, took a bunch of pictures, and then, got in the car and off he went. And that to me is, that's the right way to treat this kind of a moment. So, and I'm glad that, there's a path that's been laid on this one for hundreds of years. So we're just following on.
Governor Baker, I don't know if we're going to have this opportunity again, and just personally, I would like to thank you and your administration for all you did to help curb substance abuse and addiction. It's something that's not talked about a lot, but it's something that I've lived through, and very grateful for the dedication you guys had in trying to help people with those situations.
Curtis, thank you. And I will say this, one of the most heartwarming moments I had, we were out visiting with some folks, and just talking about our 8 years on this stuff. And a number of the people who were there said, look, you guys helped us a lot with the whole issue of embarrassment and shame. You did a really good job of being out front and saying, this is a disease. It's not a character flaw. Many of the people who end up dealing with this got there through no fault of their own. And people said that for them was an incredibly important part of their recovery process. And I really do hope that continues to be the way we think about this, because when you're battling those kinds of issues and circumstances, the last thing you need is people putting you down. What you need are people who are going to help you get up and support you as you battle your way through what is a profoundly difficult time. And good for you, Curtis. And I'll continue to talk about this one because I've been very, very moved by the stories I've heard and the work that's been done in this area by so many. So thanks for bringing that up.
Wiggy, you got one more?
Yeah, one more for me, Governor Baker, because I remember you talking about this on our show and talking about, what comes with being the governor of Massachusetts. You're there for, all the positive, negative stuff that comes with it. So you're probably dealing with a lot of emotions. As you look forward to your next, obviously, challenge, now it's on like this national spotlight. Being the governor of Massachusetts is great. What's your emotions like knowing that you are now going into a position where, you're going to be looked at, for every move that you make on a national standpoint?
I think that's a hard question to answer because it's not an experience that I'm necessarily familiar with. I mean, I've worked on a bunch of national issues in this job over the course of the past, 8 years. But I think one of the things I'm going to try and do is spend a bunch of time asking questions and listening to people and just getting a sense about how the rest of the country thinks about a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be dealing with. Because you're right. I mean, my history, my experience has basically been in New England, and I got a lot to learn about the rest of the country. And that actually is one of the things I think I'm really going to enjoy. It's obviously also about sports, which is something I'm not surprisingly deeply committed to and really enjoy. So that part I think is going to be fun.
What is your if you could only pick one? What, you got to go?
I do have to go. If you have one more, Greg,
No, I just want you brought up sports. If you could only pick one moment during your tenure, what's the best moment in Boston sports during your 8 years?
Okay, so that's like an almost impossible and unfair question because there are so many to talk about. But I will say that among many really cool and really special moments, all right, the most recent one was I had an opportunity to declare through a proclamation Patrice Bergeron Day in the Commonwealth of Mass to celebrate his 1,000 points as a Boston Bruin and all the great things that guy has done, not just for hockey, but for the city and for his community, just by being who he is and the way he carries himself. And we have a lot of people like that in this town, and we should all be enormously grateful for that. But that was the most recent one, and I just love doing it because I am such a fan of who he is and the way he carries himself.
If I was a betting woman, I was going to say Greg winning the Marconi, but that was a good one, too.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a really good one. I agree. That wasn't the most recent one. I went with the most recent one.
All right. Well, listen, as you get ready to say goodbye today, thanks for everything you did for the state. I really appreciate your willingness to be open and on this show and on the old show on WAAF, and we thank you for all of that. Thank you, Governor.
Well, and I'll look forward to catching up with you guys after I make the transition. Okay.
All right, man. Good luck.
Thank you. Take
All right.
care.
All
Yep.
right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.